The news broke just after midnight. An encrypted letter, signed and sealed, appeared across multiple official Burkinabe channels. It bore the unmistakable signature of Captain Ibrahim Traoré. The headline, translated and flashed across Western news tickers within the hour, read, "Captain Ibrahim Traoré bids farewell to Burkina Faso with a letter that breaks millions of hearts." By dawn, the capital, Ouagadougou, was unrecognizable. Streets once calm buzzed with sirens, motorcycles, and a hush that spread from neighborhood to neighborhood. People huddled around radios, smartphones, and public loudspeakers, trying to make sense of the impossible. Traoré was not just a leader. To many, he was a symbol of hope, rebellion, a promise that the blood of their ancestors had not been spilled in vain. He was the man who had risen in the darkest hour and dared to stand tall when others folded. And now, this letter. It opened simply, almost too simply. "My beloved people, I have done what I could with what I had. But now, I must leave. Not because I fear death, but because what comes next must be decided by you, not me." That line alone shattered something deep inside the hearts of many. Mothers wept. Old men sat motionless. Children, too young to understand politics, somehow felt the heavy silence wrap around them. But the real shock came 6 paragraphs in. "By the time you read this, I will no longer be in Burkina Faso. I have left our homeland behind, not to escape, but to protect what we built in silence. I was betrayed by those I once trusted most. If I stayed, this country would fall into hands darker than colonization itself." The audio recording that followed, his voice, calm, measured, tinged with something like sorrow, only deepened the wound. It ended with a chilling sentence. "And if you hear nothing from me in 7 days, do not search for me. I will already be far beyond reach." Cut to black. No further word. No follow-up. No trace of him. And that's how the world found out the captain was gone. But what truly happened before that message? What broke the man once called Burkina Faso's last lion? And who, exactly, were the traitors he spoke of? To understand the letter, to even begin to grasp the weight of that farewell, we need to go back, months before this shocking moment, to a scene far from the presidential palace. A dusty alleyway. A market district in Ouagadougou. A boy no older than 10 held a red envelope against his chest. He ran. He was told to run and never stop. The message inside that envelope? It didn't just spark the fall of a presidency. It started a chain reaction that would expose the deepest betrayal of modern African politics. And it all began with a whisper. The boy's name was Eli. Street-smart, quick-footed, a survivor of the kind you only find in West African cities, where children grow up faster than most adults ever will. Eli didn't know what was in the envelope. All he knew was that the man who gave it to him wore a uniform, smelled like blood and metal, and told him to run, no matter what. Eli had grown up in the underbelly of Ouagadougou's open-air market, sleeping under banana crates, stealing sugar cubes from roadside vendors. He didn't trust easily. But the look in the soldier's eyes, it wasn't fear. It was finality. He ran. For 6 hours, barefoot and breathless, Eli weaved through checkpoints, dodged questions, avoided men in suits who asked too many questions. He was told to deliver the envelope to a woman named Awa in Ouaga. And Awa, she wasn't just any woman. She was once Traoré's top intelligence officer. And she was being hunted. When Eli found her, she was living under a fake name in a 2-room apartment above a barbershop. No weapons, no files, no security. Just an old Nokia phone and a suitcase with 1 passport. When she read the message inside the envelope, she turned pale. Then, for the first time in 10 years, she cried. "What's in the letter?" Eli asked. She didn't answer. She just whispered to herself, "He knows." They were listening the whole time. 2 days later, Traoré summoned Awa to a private airfield just outside the capital. He greeted her without words. His eyes were sunken, his uniform wrinkled, uncharacteristic for a man known for discipline. He didn't trust anyone else. Not anymore. "I need your help," he said. She nodded. "I'm about to vanish. But before I do, I need you to deliver something to the people. Not the government. Not the press. The people." He handed her the original letter, sealed with the national crest, and a flash drive. "What's on this?" she asked. "Proof," he said. "Everything we feared. Everything they planned. If they get to me first, release it." He paused, then looked toward the horizon. "They'll paint me a traitor. Maybe even say I died running. But you know the truth." That night, Traore disappeared. By morning, Awa's apartment had been burned to the ground. Ellie was missing, and the manhunt began. Now, weeks later, with the country in disarray, questions multiply. Who betrayed Traore? Why did he choose to disappear instead of fight back? What was on that flash drive? And most haunting of all, where is Captain Ibrahim Traoré now? The night after Traoré's letter went public, the streets of Bobo Dioulasso lit up, not with celebration, but with suspicion. Every alley seemed to echo the same phrase in hushed voices. He didn't run. He was forced out. What made the letter so painful wasn't just what it said, it was what it didn't say. Traoré named no names. He didn't accuse. He didn't rage. He simply left. And in a country that had come to depend on his fiery speeches, his defiant stares down foreign powers, and his unwavering commitment to sovereignty, that silence felt louder than any gunfire. Behind the scenes, the power vacuum created a storm. Inside the Palais du Kalouba, interim ministers gathered, eyes darting, unsure whether to mourn, panic, or prepare for war. And somewhere, buried in the walls of that palace, was a secret only 3 people alive still knew. Awa was one of them. But Awa was no longer in the country. She'd crossed into Ghana 2 nights before the letter dropped, carrying the flash drive Traoré had entrusted her with, and a torn scrap of paper with a U.S. phone number on it, written in Traoré's own hand. She didn't know who it belonged to, but she knew one thing: she had only one shot to get the truth out. Meanwhile, in Atlanta, Georgia, a 42-year-old investigative journalist named Marcus Reed was sipping stale gas station coffee in his cluttered basement office when his encrypted email buzzed. Subject: Traoré. Flash. Watch. No body text. Just an attached file named BLACKSANDS_23.mov. Marcus had been obsessed with West African politics for years, especially the meteoric rise of Traoré, the young captain who'd taken power with nothing but grit, loyalty, and the will of the people. He clicked play. For 12 minutes, he sat frozen. Sweat gathered at his temple. At minute 6, he stopped breathing entirely. The video was real. Raw. A compilation of hidden surveillance footage, satellite images, and damning voice recordings. It exposed secret meetings between elite military officers and foreign contractors, men in suits who spoke English, French, and money fluently. One voice in particular made Marcus sit up. It was a U.S. congressman. His words, grainy but clear. "If we can't buy him, we bury him. Burkina Faso's gold belongs on Wall Street, not in African vaults." Marcus closed the file. His hands shook. This wasn't just a coup. This was an operation. Coordinated. Funded. Signed off. And Traoré had known all along. But back in Burkina Faso, everything was spinning out of control. New generals had stepped up, but they weren't like Traoré. They didn't walk the streets. They didn't speak in dialects. They didn't kneel next to mothers who'd lost children to war. They hid behind podiums and made vague promises. And that's when the people began to riot. Across TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, a phrase began trending: #BringBackTheLion. Homemade banners appeared overnight in Ouaga, painted with dust and dye. He didn't quit. They chased him. Graffiti spread like wildfire across school walls, abandoned tanks, even the old French embassy gates. "Show us the flash drive." But no one had it. No one, except Awa and Marcus. 3 days later, Marcus uploaded the video under the title, "Exposed: Why Ibrahim Traoré Really Disappeared." In the first 5 hours, it got 40 views. In the 6th hour, it hit 1.2 million. By midnight, Burkinabe diaspora from Paris to the Bronx were flooding the comments with anger, heartbreak, and disbelief. And then, the video vanished. Wiped. Shadow banned. Erased. All Marcus could post after that was one cryptic tweet: "They're coming. If I disappear, Know this, Traore wasn't the last lion. He was just the first. That same night, Awa found a burner phone in her backpack. It wasn't hers. It rang once. No caller ID. She answered. Silence. Then a whisper. Ellie is alive. But not for long. They know he ran the letter. They think you're next. The line cut. She looked around her dim hotel room in Accra. Her hands clenched around the flash drive. Her eyes drifted to the torn note with the US number. She had one move left. But making that call might sign her death warrant. She picked up the phone. Back in Burkina Faso, in the quiet village of Banfora, an old shepherd claimed he saw a man matching Traore's description walking through the sugar fields alone, wearing civilian clothes, head low, moving like a ghost. When asked what the man said, the shepherd replied, "He didn't say anything, but he looked at me, like a man saying goodbye." Was it really him? No one knows. But the military sealed off the region the next morning. And then, boom, a new letter, this time unsigned. No emblem, but clearly written by Traore. It was sent anonymously to a local radio station. Short, just 4 lines. They erased the truth. But the truth is never silent. I am not dead. Not yet. Now the nation is on fire again, with hope or fear. Because if Traore is still alive, he's a walking time bomb. And if he returns, he might not come back alone. If you've made it this far into the story, take a second to comment below and let us know where in the world you're watching from. And while you're here, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone who needs to watch. In the early hours of the next morning, the pulse of the country shifted. No one heard a gunshot. No bombs went off. No protesters screamed. But something changed. It started with the power grid flickering across Ouagadougou. Then the internet slowed to a crawl. News sites failed to load. And the national broadcast channel, the same one that aired Traore's farewell letter just days before, suddenly went off air for a full 47 minutes. When it came back, the signal was hijacked. No logos. No announcer. Just a black screen. Then a voice. Not Traore's, but familiar. A woman's voice, raspy but calm. They erased the first video. They won't erase this one. Burkina Faso, your lion never left you. He was caged, not defeated. The screen lit up, this time with footage far more damning than anything released before. A US official shaking hands with a French diplomat in a private compound just outside the capital. Documents exchanged. A map rolled open. And overlaid in the corner, the voice of General Ouagadougou, one of Traore's trusted lieutenants, speaking into a phone. We have the signatures. Operation will proceed regardless of civilian pushback. Traore is an emotional liability. That one line did more damage than 1,000 bullets. By sunrise, Ouagadougou's mansion was set ablaze by furious citizens. Soldiers defected overnight. Even local police officers laid down their weapons, refusing orders to suppress protesters. This wasn't just political now. This was personal. Meanwhile, in Ghana, Awa was on the run again. The phone call she made from her hotel triggered something, a trace, a breach, something she hadn't expected. By the time she stepped out of her room, there were 2 men in black suits waiting at the front desk, flashing US embassy badges. She didn't wait. She slipped through the back kitchen, tossed her phone into a pile of dirty laundry, and vanished into the side streets of Accra, clutching only her flash drive and a photocopy of Traore's original letter. For the next 48 hours, she didn't sleep. She moved between bus terminals, abandoned buildings, and safe houses left over from the old resistance networks. But she knew she couldn't keep running forever. She had to find Ellie. If the boy was still alive, he was the last witness. And he knew something no one else did. Back in the US, Marcus Reed was off-grid. Completely. His Twitter was silent. His email dark. Even close friends reported that his Brooklyn apartment was cleared out. But a single Reddit account, one he used under a fake name, posted this on a conspiracy thread at 3:11 a.m. Eastern. They found the warehouse. The one in Kudugu. The real one. With the original recordings. If I don't post again by sunrise, assume they've shut me down. And to Awa, trust only the boy. That was the last anyone heard from him. In the dusty suburbs of Ouagadougou, far from the riots, a battered Toyota Hilux pulled up to a small, run-down orphanage. The driver stepped out slowly, wore civilian clothes, limped slightly. The old woman who ran the orphanage recognized him immediately, but said nothing. She simply stepped aside and let him through the gate. He entered the back garden, where a small group of children played beneath a mango tree. One boy saw him and froze. "Ellie," the man said. The boy dropped the ball he was holding. It was Captain Ibrahim Traoré. Alive. Thinner. Paler. But very much real. Ellie rushed to him, but Traoré knelt before the boy, eyes full of urgency. "Do you still remember the passphrase I taught you?" he asked softly. Ellie nodded. "Good," Traoré whispered. "You're the last one who does. And I need you now more than ever." Because hidden inside the boy's memory, carefully tucked away through a childhood game of word puzzles and riddles, was the exact location of the final vault. The one no one else knew about. The one with the full recordings. Traoré's final insurance. But before they could leave, the orphanage gates burst open. A black SUV screeched into the compound. Traoré grabbed Ellie and ran, vanishing behind the kitchen just as masked men swarmed the courtyard. Gunfire erupted. Children screamed. Traoré knew they couldn't run forever. If they were going to reveal the truth, it had to be now. As night fell over Burkina Faso, an encrypted audio clip began circulating through WhatsApp groups like wildfire. It was Traoré's voice. "I was never afraid of death. Only of silence. They killed Thomas Sankara with bullets. They will try to kill me with lies. But you have the truth. You've seen it. Now speak louder than they ever will." The voice paused. Then, a single word. "Tomorrow." That was it. No time. No location. Just tomorrow. And suddenly, the entire country froze in anticipation. Would he appear again? Was he planning a return? Or was this the beginning of something much, much bigger? If you're still with us, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what comes next. And let us know in the comments, what do you think is in that final vault? Do you believe Traoré can survive this storm? Or is it already too late? Tell us below. The word tomorrow became a national obsession. By morning, graffiti in every major city simply read, "Domain," painted on schools, buses, even army trucks. It wasn't just a word anymore, it was a countdown. The government scrambled. Checkpoints doubled. Troops patrolled with a new kind of desperation in their eyes. News anchors, visibly tense, avoided mentioning the audio clip directly, instead pushing messages about stability, order, and national unity. But the people weren't listening. Something had shifted. And this time, they weren't afraid. They were waiting. Meanwhile, deep in a rocky region just north of Gawa, a narrow cave carved into the cliffs stood untouched for years, its entrance masked by nature, its inside hollowed out decades ago by revolutionaries who once called themselves the Sons of Sankara. This was the vault. Traoré, Awa, and Ellie had hiked 6 hours to reach it under cover of night, hiding from drones, riding in the backs of ox-drawn carts, slipping through paths only locals knew. The boy remembered the pattern of the stones, 3 large, 2 small, 1 cracked in the middle. Just like the captain had taught him when they played Memory Soldier behind the market stalls months ago. At the end of the passage was a safe embedded in the wall. Rusted, heavy, no digital locks. Just a dial and a phrase etched in Old French. "Ce que vous révélez, vous libérez." What you reveal, you set free. Inside the safe were 6 hard drives. One labeled, France. Another, CIA. Another, local traitors. Awa froze when she saw that last one. She picked it up, turned it in her hand. "What's on this?" she asked. Traoré didn't answer. Instead, he handed her a small portable laptop and motioned for her to plug it in. Within seconds, names appeared on screen. Dozens of them. Politicians, journalists, businessmen, even charity workers. People who had smiled beside Traoré in public, clapped at his speeches, praised his reforms, but who, behind closed doors, had been feeding intel to foreign agencies, sabotaging efforts, and rerouting aid. And there, near the bottom, Awa's name. She blinked. For a moment, the air was vacuumed out of the room. I don't, she stammered. You didn't know, Traore said calmly. They used your account, but someone you trusted gave them access. She looked away. She already knew who. Her ex. A quiet analyst she dated 2 years ago. Said he worked in data compliance. Traore reached out and placed a hand on her shoulder. You're still here. That's what matters. The plan was simple. They had one satellite uplink, hidden in an abandoned radio tower near Leo, along the Ghanaian border. It hadn't been active in years, but Awa had a contact who once ran underground broadcasts during the Sankara days. He could rig it back online, just long enough to upload everything. All the files, unedited, uncut, unfiltered, to the world. But they had only one shot. Back in Ouagadougou, the protests turned into sit-ins, then into flash mobs, then into something else, something the government couldn't control. At noon, a teenager hacked the city's LED billboards and streamed the text from Traoré's farewell letter. Over and over. I have done what I could with what I had. At 2:14 p.m., the national news feed was hijacked again, this time by someone using Marcus Reed's voice. If you're watching this, I'm not coming back. But the story lives. And so does he. Then a countdown appeared on screen. 3 hours, 44 minutes, 12 seconds. The message was clear. They were going live. The team reached the tower just before dusk. Traore moved slower now, exhausted, dehydrated, but still alert. Ellie kept close, always watching the trees, the sky, the ground. Awa climbed the tower alone, gripping a rusted ladder while carrying the drives in a sling across her chest. At the top, she found the satellite dish intact, but the cables frayed, worn, and possibly dead. She radioed down. It's bad, but I can patch it. I need 40 minutes. You've got 20, Traore replied, because in the distance, they could already hear helicopters. With trembling hands, Awa stripped wires, bridged connections, and cursed under her breath. Her phone showed just 1 bar of signal. She didn't need it to be perfect, just long enough. Down below, Ellie tapped on Traoré's leg. There's a red light on that rock, he whispered. The captain looked. Laser sight. Snipers. And they were closing in fast. Awa hit send. The upload began, slowly at first, then accelerating. Bars filled the screen. Then it stalled at 83%. Come on, she whispered. Traore spotted movement in the trees. Soldiers. He turned to Ellie. If I tell you to run, you run back to the cave. Understand? No. Ellie. No, the boy snapped. You told me I was a soldier. Soldiers don't run. Before Traore could argue, a bullet ripped through the tree beside them. The fight had begun. Gunfire echoed across the valley. Awa screamed into her mic, 1 more minute. Traore fired back, moving with the rhythm of a man who had nothing left to lose, but everything still to protect. Ellie ducked behind a rock, clutching a pocket knife. In his other hand, a flash drive backup, just in case. At 96%, Awa lost signal. The screen froze. No, 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 she slammed the laptop. Suddenly, a second signal pinged. Backup line. An old satellite Marcus had mentioned once, years ago. A Nigerian relay. She rerouted. Uploading. 98%. 99%. 100%. Sent. And just as she closed the laptop, a hand grabbed her ankle. She turned, screamed, and kicked. The agent fell from the ladder. She climbed down, fast, heart pounding. Traore was bleeding. Ellie was still at his side. They had to move. That night, the world changed. The files hit YouTube, Twitter, Telegram. Re-uploaded, shared, translated. The truth was out. Across West Africa, people poured into the streets. In Burkina Faso, protest turned to revolution. By dawn, the military council had collapsed. General Ouedraogo fled the country. But no one knew where Traore was. Some said he died that night. Others swore they saw him crossing the border on foot with a boy by his side. But no photos, no videos. Just one final message appeared online. A short video, blurry, shot in the jungle. Traore, voice calm. The lion sleeps now, but the pride rises. You are the pride. 2 weeks passed. No official statement. No confirmed sightings. No arrests. The world was still buzzing from the upload. Every major news network had run with it, some reluctantly, others with open outrage. France denied involvement. The US distanced itself. Burkina Faso's new interim leadership promised a national healing period. But the streets knew better. Traoré's words were now printed on shirts, spray-painted on walls, stitched into fabrics sold in roadside markets. Artists remixed his farewell letter into protest songs. Schoolchildren memorized lines from his speeches the way they once did national anthems. But no one had seen him. Not Awa, not Eli, not even the resistance cells scattered across West Africa. He was gone, or so it seemed. On a quiet night in the southern hills of Mali, a convoy of 3 motorbikes moved under the moonlight. They traveled without headlights. The lead rider wore a scarf pulled up to his eyes, his silhouette hunched, body scarred. The boy behind him hummed softly, a tune from an old children's song. Awa rode last, her backpack resting against a rifle she hadn't used in days. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. They had one goal left. Traore had survived, yes. Barely. He had been shot, twice, during the escape from the radio tower. Awa stitched him up in a goat herder's hut. Eli stayed awake 3 nights, keeping watch with nothing but a slingshot and a rock. But even as the body weakened, the mind never did. And now, Traore had made a decision. He would never return to power. Not as a soldier. Not as a president. Because if he came back, they'd turn him into a symbol again. A target. A flag to wave. A man to worship or destroy. And that wasn't what Burkina Faso needed anymore. They needed to believe they were the power. So he vanished. This time, for good. On the 1-year anniversary of his disappearance, a massive crowd gathered at the Thomas Sankara Memorial in Ouagadougou. Thousands stood shoulder to shoulder under the sun, candles in hand, wearing shirts that read, Nous sommes les lions. We are the lions. A screen flickered to life at the memorial. A pre-recorded video, never before seen. Traore appeared, thinner, older, but calm. If you're seeing this, I'm no longer needed. Not as your captain. Not as your voice. Because now, the voice of the people is louder than anything I ever said. My job was never to lead forever. It was to remind you what was possible when courage walks in broad daylight. When truth isn't whispered, but shouted. He smiled, tired, proud. The future isn't mine. It's yours. Protect it. Fight for it. Share it. And when you are asked where your lion went, tell them. He didn't run. He roared, and then he walked away. The screen went black. Silence. Then cheers. Then tears. Awa now teaches political science under an alias at a university in Benin. Her students don't know who she really is. But every once in a while, when discussing revolutionary strategy, one student always raises a hand and asks, "But what if the leader disappears?" She always smiles. Then the people lead. Eli. He's learning to read and write now. Fast learner. Already better with computers than anyone in the orphanage. One day, he asks Awa, "Do you think they'll remember him?" Awa looks out at the horizon. No. They'll remember themselves. That's what he wanted. And you? You've been watching this story unfold. A story not just about a captain, but about betrayal, courage, sacrifice, and something bigger than any man. A story that, if you're paying attention, isn't over. Because somewhere, right now, someone else is being silenced. Somewhere, another truth is being buried. But maybe this time, someone like you will speak. Someone like you will carry the letter. If this story moved you, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who needs to remember what real leadership looks like. And in the comments below, tell us, what does being a lion mean to you? Have you ever seen a leader who walked away, not for power, but for peace? Thank you for staying with us through the journey.